about how the White House and top State Department officials and Department of Defense officials knew in real time that our Americans were under attack in Libya. The father of former Navy SEAL Tyrone Woods calling into the Lars Larson radio show, telling a remarkable story about meeting President Obama and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton after his son was killed. Tyrone Woods, again, was in Benghazi when the consulate was attacked. He was stationed in an annex about a mile away from the consulate. He responded to calls for help and escaped, only to be found nearly 6 hours later back at the annex, and that is where he was killed by mortar fire. This is the aftermath of that attack. On September 14th, the bodies of Tyrone Woods, U.S. Ambassador Chris Stevens, and 2 other Americans were returned home. Their coffins were met at Andrews Air Force Base by the President and the Secretary of State, among others. And that is where we pick up the story of Tyrone Woods' father. He was there as well. And he recounted to Lars meeting the President and the Secretary of State. Here is part of his interview with Lars Larson.
When the President, we had 4 kind of little pod areas there with each one of the families. And when he came over to our little area, you know, I could tell he kind of just mumbled, you know, I'm sorry. His face was looking at me, but his eyes were looking over my shoulder, like he could not look me in the eye. And it was not a sincere, I'm really sorry, you know, that your son died, but it was a totally insincere, more of a whining type, I'm sorry. And it was like just shaking hands with a dead fish. It just didn't feel right. And now it's coming out that apparently the White House Situation Room was watching our people die in real time. This was happening. And I haven't called any of these shows or anything, but when I heard that this morning, this is something I would really like to get into, and I hope that the public does not forget this. Well, this is what Hillary did. She came over and, you know, she did the same thing, you know, separately came over to and talked with me. I gave her a hug, shook her hand, and she did not appear to be one bit sincere at all. And, you know, she mentioned that thing about we're going to have that person arrested and prosecuted that did the video. That was the first time I'd even heard about anything like that. And, you know, apparently even the State Department had live stream and was aware of their calls for help. This is my son. He wasn't even there. He was at a state house about a mile away. He got the distress call. He heard them crying for help. That's why he and Glenn risked their lives to go that extra mile just to take care of the situation. And I'm sure that he wasn't the only one that received that distress call, you know, come save our lives. You know, I'm sure that other people in the military, in the State Department, in the White House, received that same call that he would have received. 6 more days he would have been home. It's not a matter of honoring him or anyone else, and it's not a matter of being mad at anyone either. But just what's coming out right now, kind of the whole feeling that I got about this when it happened is we're not being told the truth. Something fishy is about what happened over there. This just doesn't happen. And now this information coming out about, you know, videos being live streamed, calls for help being sent to the White House station room, whatever that is. It's just, we need to make sure that this does not happen again so that, you know, people like Ty who are out there, principled men and women now, that are willing to sacrifice their lives, that they won't be abandoned by their commander-in-chief.